The snow came down hard against the gas station on Route 287. Not the gentle kind that drifts and settles. The vicious kind. The kind that hits your face like needles and makes the world disappear behind a wall of white. The wind carried it sideways across the empty parking lot. It piled against the building in drifts that looked like frozen waves. Two girls sat on a wooden bench near the store entrance. Alone. Completely alone. The younger one looked about 6 years old. Her face was red and swollen from crying. Wet streaks cut through the cold on her cheeks. Her coat was thin, too thin for Wyoming in January, too thin for a night when the temperature had already dropped to 15 degrees and was still falling. She gripped her older sister's arm with both hands. Her fingers were white. Her whole body shook. The older girl was maybe 10. She sat straight, back rigid, jaw clenched so tight it made her face look older than it was. Her eyes stared forward at nothing. At the darkness beyond the gas pumps, at the highway where occasional headlights swept past without slowing, she was trying to be brave. You could see it in the way she held herself, in the way she kept her chin up even though her hands were shaking, even though her lips had gone pale from the cold. Inside the store, fluorescent lights hummed. The clerk stood behind the counter, mid-30s, thin face, bored expression. He looked through the window at the two girls, looked right at them, then turned away, picked up his phone, started scrolling, like they weren't there. Like two children sitting in a blizzard at 10 o'clock at night was just another Tuesday. A few cars passed on the highway. Their headlights cut through the falling snow. White beams that swept across the lot and illuminated the girls for just a moment. Long enough to see. Long enough to know something was wrong. But not one of them stopped. Not one slowed down. They just kept driving, disappearing into the storm, leaving the girls behind. The sound of an engine rose above the wind, different from the cars, deeper, a rumble that seemed to come from the earth itself. A motorcycle turned into the lot. The headlight was a single bright eye in the darkness. The engine was loud, heavy, the kind of sound you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. The bike pulled up to the pump. The rider killed the engine. The sudden silence was almost louder than the noise had been. Only the wind remained, howling across the empty lot, carrying snow in sheets that looked like ghosts. The rider pulled off his helmet, a big man, massive, 6'4" at least, shoulders that seemed to fill the space around him. He had a gray beard that reached his chest. It was braided with leather cord. Weathered and worn from years on the road, his face was hard, lines carved deep around his eyes and mouth, the kind of lines that come from squinting into the sun for decades. From facing wind and weather without shelter, from seeing things that leave marks on a person's soul. He wore a leather vest over a heavy jacket. The vest was covered in patches, a skull with lightning bolts. The words Thunder Road MC arched across the back in silver letters. Wyoming chapter beneath it. More patches on the front, pins and symbols that told stories to anyone who knew how to read them. He started toward the pump, took 2 steps, then stopped. His eyes moved to the bench, to the 2 girls sitting there in the snow. His expression didn't change, but something shifted. Something in the way he held himself, like a man who had just seen something that changed everything. He stood there for a long moment, not moving, just watching. His breath made clouds in the frozen air. He knew what this looked like. A big man in leather, covered in patches that most people crossed the street to avoid, walking toward 2 children alone in the dark. He knew exactly what people would think, what they would say, what they would do. He had been looked at with suspicion his entire adult life, had been judged for the way he dressed, for the bike he rode, for the brothers he chose, for the life he lived outside the lines that regular people drew. He had learned to keep his distance from situations like this, had learned that men like him didn't get the benefit of the doubt, ever. But the older girl was looking at him now. Her eyes were wide, steady, not looking away. And something in those eyes held him there. Not fear, not of him anyway. Something else. Something that looked a lot like hope mixed with desperation. Like she was waiting. Like she had been waiting for someone. Anyone. And now someone was finally here. The younger girl buried her face in her sister's shoulder. Her small body shook with sobs. The sound carried across the empty lot, high and sharp and breaking. The older girl wrapped an arm around her, held on tight, but kept her eyes on the man standing by the motorcycle. Cole Brennan had seen a lot of things in 46 years. He had seen fear before, had seen it on children's faces, knew what it looked like when a kid was scared, really scared. And he knew what it meant when two girls were sitting outside a gas station in the middle of a blizzard at 10 o'clock at night with no adult in sight. He also knew what people saw when they looked at him. A biker, an outlaw, someone dangerous, someone to avoid. He had made peace with that a long time ago, or thought he had, but standing here now, looking at these two kids, something inside him refused to walk away. He took a step forward. The younger girl cried harder. Her voice broke into sounds that didn't have words, just raw terror spilling out into the frozen night. The older girl opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Her voice came out small, barely loud enough to hear over the wind. Please. That one word hit Cole harder than anything had hit him in years. Harder than fists, harder than falls, harder than the thousand small cruelties that came from living on the margins of the world. That one word from a 10-year-old girl who was trying to hold everything together and couldn't anymore. He stopped 5 feet from the bench, close enough to hear her, far enough to give them space. His hands stayed at his sides. Open, visible, not threatening, just there. Where's your mom? The older girl's chin trembled. She looked down at her sister, then back at Cole. Her voice cracked when she spoke. She said she'd be right back. How long ago? The girl didn't answer, but her eyes did. They filled with something that looked like fear mixing with shame. Like she already knew the truth but couldn't say it out loud. Like saying it would make it real. Cole looked at the store. The clerk was watching now, still standing behind the counter, arms crossed, doing nothing. Just watching like this was entertainment. Cole looked back at the girls. The snow was getting heavier, coming down in sheets that made it hard to see more than a few feet. The younger one's lips were turning pale. Her crying had quieted to whimpers. The older girl was shivering now too, but she kept her eyes on Cole, still waiting, still hoping. Cole exhaled slowly. He crouched down. Not all the way, just enough to be closer to their level, to be less of a tower looming over them. I'm going to help you, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? The older girl stared at him. For a long moment she just stared, like she was trying to see inside him, trying to decide if this man in leather and patches was someone she could trust or just another person who would let her down. Then slowly she nodded. The younger one lifted her face from her sister's shoulder. Her cheeks were raw from the cold and the crying. Her eyes were swollen, almost shut. She looked at Cole like she was trying to decide if he was safe. Then without warning, she reached out and grabbed the edge of his jacket. Her small fingers closed around the leather and held on. Cole froze. He looked down at the tiny hand gripping his jacket, at the fingers that were so small they barely wrapped around the material. Something twisted in his chest, something that hurt more than any wound he had ever taken. The older girl's voice came again, stronger this time. The man inside made us leave. He said we couldn't stay if we weren't buying anything. Cole's jaw tightened. He didn't look at the store, didn't trust himself to look at it yet. He kept his eyes on the girls. What's your name, Harper? And this is Bryn. She's 6. I'm 10. Cole nodded. I'm Cole. How long has your mom been gone? Harper looked at the ground. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. She was supposed to be back at 7. Cole checked his watch. The face glowed blue in the darkness. 10:15. Over 3 hours late, his stomach dropped. Did you try calling her? Harper nodded. She won't answer. Her phone just goes to voicemail. We tried texting too. Nothing. Bryn lifted her head again. Her voice was tiny, broken. I'm scared she's gone forever. Cole stayed very still. Bryn's grip on his jacket tightened. Like our dad. Bryn's voice cracked on the word dad. He left. 2 years ago. He said he'd come back. He didn't. Now mommy's gone too. The words hung in the frozen air. Cole felt something crack inside his chest. Something that had been sealed over for 8 years. Something he had buried so deep he thought it couldn't hurt him anymore. He was wrong. Where do you live? Harper pointed down the highway. Into the darkness and the snow. Riverview Trailer Court. About 3 miles that way. You walked here. She nodded. Mom's car is gone. The man she was meeting came and picked her up. Cole looked around the parking lot, empty except for his bike and two cars that probably belonged to people working inside. The highway was dark, no headlights in either direction. The storm was getting worse. The temperature was still dropping. These girls had walked 3 miles in the dark, in the cold, because they had nowhere else to go. He made a decision. The kind of decision that changes everything. The kind you can't take back. I'm going to find your mom, but you need to stay here and keep warm. Can you do that? Harper looked at him. Her eyes searched his face. Why are you helping us? Cole paused. The question caught him off guard. He looked at these two girls, at Harper trying to be brave, at Bryn holding onto his jacket like it was the only thing keeping her from drowning. He thought about Sarah, about the park, about the bench where his wife had been sitting, about the minute, less than a minute. That was all it took, because someone should. Harper blinked. Her lip trembled, but she held it together. She nodded. Cole stood up, pulled out his phone, stepped a few feet away. The number he dialed was answered on the second ring. It's Ghost. Cole's voice was low. I need backup at the Route 287 gas station. 2 kids. No parents. I'm going after the mother. The voice on the other end was rough, gravelly, a voice that had smoked too many cigarettes and yelled over too many engines. How many you need? Cole looked at the girls, at the storm, at the clerk still watching through the window. As many as you can send. Done. We'll be there in 40. Keep them safe. That's the plan. Cole ended the call. He walked toward the store. The automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss. Warm air hit his face. The difference in temperature was shocking. Inside, it was bright, almost too bright. Harsh fluorescent lights that made everything look flat and washed out. The clerk looked up. His eyes moved over Cole's leather, over the patches, over the size of him. The clerk's expression didn't change, but his posture did. He straightened, crossed his arms tighter, put on the face of someone who was not impressed, not intimidated, just annoyed. Cole moved through the store without a word. He found the coffee station near the back, made 2 cups of hot chocolate. The machine gurgled and hissed. Steam rose from the cups. He grabbed 2 packages of hand warmers from a rack near the register. The kind you break and shake and they heat up. Good for a few hours at least. He brought everything to the counter. The clerk rang it up without speaking. The total appeared on the screen. Cole pulled cash from his wallet, laid it on the counter. Exact amount. The clerk took it. Still didn't speak. Just put the money in the register and went back to his phone. Cole picked up the cups and the hand warmers, started to turn away, then stopped. He looked at the clerk, really looked at him. The clerk glanced up. Their eyes met. Those girls have been out there for hours. Cole's voice was flat, quiet, but there was something in it that made the clerk's face change. You kicked them out. The clerk's jaw tightened. They weren't customers. I can't have people just hanging around. They're children. Not my problem. Cole stared at him. For a long moment, he just stared. The clerk looked away first, went back to his phone, pretended Cole wasn't there anymore. Cole walked out. The cold hit him again. The doors slid shut behind him. He crossed the lot to the bench. Harper and Bryn watched him approach. He handed them the cups. The warmth spread through their fingers. You could see it in their faces. The way they held the cups close. The way they bent their heads over the steam. Cole opened the hand warmers, shook them until they started to heat, handed one to each girl. Put these in your pockets. They'll help. Harper took hers, slipped it into her coat. Bryn did the same. Then she looked up at Cole. Her eyes were huge in her small face. Are you really gonna find our mommy? Cole crouched down again. Looked at Bryn. At this 6-year-old who had already lost her father, who was terrified of losing her mother too. He thought about promises, about what they meant to a child, about what happened when they were broken. I'm going to do everything I can. It wasn't a yes. It wasn't a no. It was the truth. Careful, honest, the only thing he could give her. Bryn looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that broke him. She let go of his jacket, reached up with both arms, and wrapped them around his neck, hugged him, This tiny girl who had every reason not to trust anyone, who had been abandoned by her father and was sitting in the snow because her mother hadn't come back. She hugged him. Cole froze. He didn't know what to do. His arms came up slowly, carefully. He put one hand on her back, let her hold on. She was so small, so fragile, like a bird, like something that could break if you weren't careful. After a moment, Bryn let go, sat back down next to Harper. Harper wrapped an arm around her, pulled her close. They both looked at Cole. "My brothers are coming," Cole said. "They'll be here soon. They'll stay with you, keep you warm, keep you safe. I promise you that." Harper nodded. She believed him, or wanted to, or had no choice but to. Cole stood, walked toward his bike. The rumble of engines rose in the distance. Coming closer, 6 motorcycles turned into the lot, Thunder Road patches on every back. They pulled up in formation, killed their engines one by one. The silence after was thick. The riders dismounted. Big men, hard faces, leather and patches, and the kind of presence that made normal people nervous. They looked at Cole, at the 2 girls on the bench, at the situation. Nobody spoke. They didn't need to. They all understood. One of the riders stepped forward, younger than the others, maybe 30. He had kind eyes despite the tattoos covering his arms. He walked over to the bench, crouched down like Cole had. "Hey, I'm Finn. Your names are Harper and Bryn, right?" Harper nodded. "Cool names," Finn smiled. "We're going to hang out here with you while Ghost goes to find your mom. That okay?" Bryn looked at Harper. Harper looked at Cole. "Who's Ghost?" Finn grinning. "That's what we call him." He pointed at Cole. "Best tracker we got. If your mom's out there, he'll find her." Cole pulled on his helmet, started his bike. The engine roared to life. Before he pulled away, he looked at the girls one more time. Harper had her arm around Bryn. They were holding their hot chocolate, surrounded by 6 bikers who looked terrifying but were being gentle, who were there because Cole had called. Because this is what they did. This is what mattered. Cole twisted the throttle. The bike surged forward. He pulled out of the lot and onto the highway, into the storm, into the darkness. Behind him, the gas station lights grew smaller, disappeared. Ahead was nothing but snow and road and the hunt. He rode hard. The wind hit him like a wall. The snow came at his visor so thick he could barely see. Ice formed on his gloves. His fingers went numb. His face felt like it was being cut with razors. But he didn't slow down. Couldn't slow down. Every minute that passed was a minute those girls sat waiting. A minute their mother was with someone who hadn't brought her back. The diner appeared on his left. Valley View, a low building with a neon sign that flickered in the wind. Half the parking lot was empty. He pulled in, parked near the entrance, killed the engine. Inside it was warm. The smell of coffee and fried food hit him immediately. A few customers sat in booths near the windows. Older couples, a trucker nursing coffee at the counter, a waitress wiping down tables. The night manager stood by the register. Cole walked to the counter, pulled off his gloves. The manager looked up, saw the leather, saw the patches. His expression closed off, became neutral, careful. "Help you. I'm looking for a woman named Sienna Hart. She works here." The manager's eyes narrowed. "Who's asking?" "Someone who needs to find her." The manager crossed his arms. "She's not here. Left around 5. Had plans." Cole leaned against the counter. Not aggressive, just tired. Just a man who had been riding through a blizzard and needed information. "Do you know where she went?" The manager shook his head. "Personal business. I don't ask." A voice came from behind Cole. An older woman's voice, rough around the edges. "I know." Cole turned. A waitress stood a few feet away, maybe 55. Gray hair pulled back in a bun, sharp eyes, lines around her mouth from years of forced smiles. She looked at Cole, at his cut, at the patches. Something in her expression said she wasn't afraid. "Just assessing." "You're looking for Sienna," Cole nodded. "Why, her daughters are sitting outside a gas station on Route 287 in a blizzard. She was supposed to be back 3 hours ago. She's not answering her phone." The waitress's face changed, went from skeptical to concerned in an instant. Her daughters Harper and Bryn, 10 and 6. The waitress looked at the manager, then back at Cole. She jerked her head toward a booth in the corner, walked over, sat down. Cole followed, slid into the seat across from her. "I'm Marlene," she said quietly. "I've worked here 20 years, known Sienna for 6. Good woman, works hard, loves those girls more than anything." Cole waited. She met someone online, guy named Logan. He's been in here a few times over the past couple weeks, always smiling, always polite, always paying. But, she stopped, looked out the window at the snow. "But what? There's something off about him." Marlene's voice dropped even lower. "The way he watches people, like they're not real, like they're things. I've seen it before. Long time ago, my sister dated a man like that. It didn't end well." Cole's jaw tightened. "Do you know where he took her?" Marlene thought for a moment. "Last week I was taking the trash out back. He was on his phone, didn't know I was there. I heard him mention a cabin, said it belonged to his family. Something about Miller's Ridge." Cole's heart rate picked up. "Miller's Ridge. We're on Miller's Ridge, I don't know. Just heard the name. But it's not a big area, maybe 10 miles of mountain road. Handful of cabins, most of them empty this time of year." Cole stood. Marlene reached out, grabbed his wrist. "You find her," she said. "Those girls need their mother. And Sienna, she's been through enough. Husband left 2 years ago, just walked out. Never looked back. She doesn't deserve this." Cole looked down at her, at the fear in her eyes, at the hope mixed with it. "I'll find her." He walked out into the cold, pulled out his phone, dialed. "I've got a location." Cole said when Axel answered. "Miller's Ridge. Cabin, family property supposedly. Name's Logan, last name unknown." Axel's voice came through, rough with static. "Roads are bad. Ghost. We're moving, but it's slow. Might be 90 minutes. Cole looked up at the sky, at the snow that showed no sign of stopping. "I don't have 90 minutes. There was a pause. "You going in alone?" Cole didn't answer. Axel sighed. "Be careful, brother. We're coming as fast as we can." The line went dead. Cole mounted his bike, sat there for a moment, thought about what he was riding into. A cabin in the mountains, in a blizzard, looking for a woman who might or might not be there, who might or might not be in danger, and a man he knew nothing about except that he set off alarms in people who paid attention. He thought about Harper and Bryn, about the way Bryn had hugged him, about Harper trying to be brave, about the promise he had made. Not the words, the intent. He was going to do everything he could. Cole started the engine. The sound was loud in the quiet parking lot. He pulled onto the highway, headed north, toward the mountains, toward Miller's Ridge, toward whatever was waiting there in the dark. The road climbed, steep and winding. The snow was deeper here. The wind was stronger. It pushed against him, tried to force him off the road. He leaned into it, fought for every mile. His hands were numb now, completely numb. He couldn't feel the grips anymore. Just trusted muscle memory, just held on and kept going. The trees grew thicker, tall pines that blocked what little light came from the sky. The road became a tunnel through darkness. His headlight was the only thing cutting through the storm, the only thing between him and blindness. He thought about Sarah, couldn't help it, riding into danger, looking for someone's daughter. It was all too familiar, all too close to the thing that had broken him 8 years ago, the thing he had never really recovered from. Sarah had been 7, brown curls that bounced when she ran, a laugh that filled every room, questions constantly. Why is the sky blue, Daddy? Where do stars go in the daytime? What happens when you die? He had answered them all, or tried to, had loved every single question because it meant she was curious, meant she was a room, meant she was his. The park had been 3 blocks from their house, safe neighborhood, playground with new equipment. His wife had taken Sarah there while he was at work, sat on a bench 20 feet away, looked at her phone, checked a text, less than a minute. When she looked up, Sarah was gone, just gone, like she had never existed. The police searched for weeks. They followed every lead, checked every camera, knocked on every door, put her face on every news station. Nothing, no trace, no witnesses, no body, just a 7-year-old girl who vanished into thin air in broad daylight in a safe neighborhood while her mother sat 20 feet away. Cole's marriage had lasted another year. But it was already over. His wife blamed herself, couldn't look at him, couldn't be in their house, couldn't live with the ghost of their daughter in every room. She left, moved across the country. He didn't blame her. How could he? He blamed himself too. He had stopped sleeping, stopped eating, stopped doing anything except riding and searching and looking for a girl who was never coming home. The club saved him, or tried to. Axel had pulled him aside one night, told him he had two choices. Let this kill him or let it change him. Make it mean something or let it be meaningless. Use the pain or let the pain use him. Cole had chosen change, had thrown himself into missing children awareness, into volunteering, into being the person who showed up when a kid was in trouble. He couldn't save Sarah, but he could save others. Had to save others. Had to make the loss mean something or it would consume him. Tonight felt like a test, like the universe was asking if he meant it, if he was really willing to ride into a blizzard, into danger, into the unknown. For two girls he didn't know and a woman he had never met. The answer was easy. The answer had always been easy. Yes. A light flickered in the distance, faint, almost invisible through the snow. Cole slowed, killed his headlight, let his eyes adjust to the darkness. The light was steady now. A window, a cabin. He pulled off the road into the trees, dismounted. The snow was deep here, up to his knees. He pushed through it, moving slowly, carefully, staying in the shadows, making no sound except the crunch of snow under his boots. The cabin was small, old, wood that had weathered decades of mountain winters, a porch that sagged in the middle, a chimney with smoke curling out, and in the driveway a dark sedan covered in a thick layer of fresh snow. It had been there for hours. Cole crouched behind a tree, 30 feet from the cabin. He could see through the front window. The glass was old, frosted around the edges, but clear enough in the center, clear enough to see what was inside. A woman sat in a chair near the center of the room. Her arms were pulled behind her back. Her head was down. Her shoulders were shaking. Even from this distance, Cole could see she was crying. And standing over her, blocking the only door, was a man. His posture was relaxed, hands in his pockets, face calm. But there was something wrong about the calmness, something that didn't match the fear in the room, something that made Cole's blood run cold. He had found her, found Sienna. But getting her out was another matter entirely. One door, one window, one man between them and freedom. No backup, no plan, just Cole and the storm and the promise he had made to two little girls sitting in the snow 3 miles away. Cole stayed crouched behind the tree. His breath made clouds in the frozen air. His fist tightened around nothing, around the anger rising in his chest, around the fear that he was too late, around the determination that he would not fail. Not this time. Not these girls. Not their mother. The man inside moved, paced in front of the woman, said something Cole couldn't hear. The woman's head lifted. Her face was visible for just a moment, terrified, pleading. Then the man's hand came down, hard. The woman's head snapped to the side. Cole's vision went red. He stood, started moving toward the cabin, stopped himself, forced himself to think, to plan, to not just charge in and make things worse. He pulled out his phone. No signal. Too deep in the mountains. Too much interference from the storm. He was alone. Completely alone. Axel and the brothers were still an hour away. Maybe more in this weather. The police even longer. Nobody was coming. Nobody could help. It was just him. Just Cole. Just Ghost. The man who had lost his own daughter. The man who had promised 2 more daughters he would bring their mother home. He took a breath, let it out slowly, made his decision. There was only one way to do this, only one way that didn't end with someone getting hurt. He had to go in, had to be smart, had to be fast, had to be everything he had promised he would be. Cole moved around to the back of the cabin, staying low, staying quiet, looking for another way in, a back door, a window, anything. He found it. A window on the back wall, small, old, cracked open just a few inches to let out heat from the wood stove inside. He pulled out his knife, slid the blade into the gap between the window and the frame, pressed gently. The wood was old, rotted, it gave. The window shifted, opened wider. Cole gripped the sill, pulled himself up. His body slid through the narrow opening. His boots touched down inside. He was in a storage room. Dark, cold, old furniture covered in dust, boxes stacked against the walls. He held his breath, listened. The man's voice came from the next room, calm, almost casual, like this was normal. Like he did this all the time. You shouldn't have tried to leave, the voice said. You shouldn't have made me do this. Cole moved toward the door. It was slightly ajar. A sliver of light cut through the gap. He pressed against the wall, looked through. The woman was Sienna. He knew it without being told. She matched the description. Brown hair, thin frame, the exhaustion of someone who worked 2 jobs and raised 2 kids alone. But more than that, she had Harper's eyes, determined even in fear, fighting even when beaten down. The man was in his 40s, clean clothes, expensive jacket, the kind of man who looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not in a cabin tying up single mothers. He was smiling. That was the worst part. He was smiling like he was enjoying this. Cole's hand tightened on his knife. He had one chance, one moment to get this right. If he screwed it up, Sienna paid the price. If he moved too fast, the man might reach her before Cole could stop him. If he moved too slow, something worse might happen. He thought about Bryn's arms around his neck, about Harper's voice saying please, about the promise he had made, not in words, in intent, in the decision to ride into a blizzard and not stop until he found what he was looking for. Cole pushed the door open, stepped into the room. His voice came out low, steady, absolute. Enough. The man spun around. His face went through surprise, confusion, anger, all in less than a second. His eyes locked onto Cole, onto the leather, onto the patches, onto the size of the man standing in his cabin. Who the hell are you? Cole didn't answer. His eyes moved to Sienna. She had lifted her head, stared at him. Terror mixed with desperate hope. Like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Like she was afraid to believe it might be real. The man took a step back. His hand moved toward the tool near the wall. A hunting knife sat on the edge. His fingers reached for it. Cole spoke again, still calm, still steady, but with something underneath, something dangerous. Put the knife down. The man's hand closed around the handle. He lifted it, held it in front of him. The blade caught the light from the kerosene lamp on the table. You broke into my home. The man's voice tried to sound confident, tried to sound in control, but it shook. Just slightly, just enough to give him away. I'm calling the police. You're going to jail. Cole looked at the knife, looked at the mom, looked at Sienna tied to the chair with her hands behind her back and her face swelling where he had hit her. He looked at all of it and felt very calm, very certain, very ready for what came next. More riders are coming, Cole said quietly. Police too. You've got about 3 minutes before this cabin is surrounded. Put the knife down and this ends quiet. The man's jaw tightened. His eyes darted to the door, to the window, looking for escape, finding none. The snow was too deep, the storm too strong. He was trapped, and he knew it. But trapped things are dangerous. Desperate things do desperate things. The man lunged, fast, faster than Cole expected. The knife came at his throat in a wide arc, silver blade flashing in the lamplight. Cole sidestepped. Not far, just enough. His hand shot out, caught the man's wrist, twisted, hard. The knife clattered to the floor. The man swung with his other hand. Wild, panicked, Cole blocked it, drove his elbow into the man's ribs. The sound was wet, solid. The man's breath left his lungs in a sharp gasp. He stumbled back, tried to recover. Cole didn't give any time, didn't give him space, didn't give him anything. He grabbed the man by the collar, swept his legs. The man hit the floor hard. The impact shook the cabin. Before he could move, Cole was on top of him, one knee pressed into his spine, both arms pinned behind his back, locked, controlled, going nowhere. The man struggled, cursed, threatened, told Cole he was going to prison, told him he would sue, told him he didn't know who he was dealing with. Cole said nothing, just held him there, breathing steady, grip unwavering, waiting. Sienna stared at them, at the man on the floor, at the stranger who had appeared from nowhere and saved her, at the leather jacket and the patches she had been taught to fear her entire life. Her body tensed, like she didn't know if this was better or just different, like she wasn't sure if she should be grateful or more scared. Cole looked at her, his voice softened. Not much, but enough. You're safe now. She stared at him, lips trembling, eyes filling with tears. Your daughters are waiting for you, Cole said. Harper and Bryn. They're at the gas station. My brothers are with them. They're okay. Sienna's face crumbled. A sob broke from her chest, raw and broken and relieved all at once. She lowered her head and cried. Deep gasping squeeze that shook her whole body. The kind of crying that comes when you realize you're going to live, that you're going to see your children again, that the nightmare is over. Cole kept his knee on the man's back, kept his hands pinned, kept him controlled and still. He didn't speak again. Just let Sienna cry. Let her have this moment. After what she had been through, after what she had survived. She had earned it. In the distance, barely audible over the storm, sirens, faint at first, then louder, growing, coming closer. Red and blue lights began to flash through the trees outside, painting the snow in colors, making shadows dance across the walls. The man beneath Cole went still. The fight left his body. He knew it was over, knew he had lost, knew whatever he had planned for tonight was not going to happen. He stopped struggling, stopped cursing, just lay there, breathing hard, defeated. The cabin door burst open. Two deputies rushed in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. They saw the scene. The woman tied to the chair, the man on the floor, the biker holding him down. Their training kicked in, guns up, clear the room, assess threats. Cole raised his hands slowly, carefully, stepped back, let the man go, stood up and put his hands where they could see them. He's the one you want, Cole's voice was calm. Even, like this was just another Tuesday. She's the victim. One deputy moved to the man, pulled him up, cuffed him, read him his rights in a monotone that said he had done this 1,000 times. The other deputy went to Sienna, pulled out a knife and cut the zip ties around her wrists. She winced. The plastic had cut deep. Blood rushed back into her fingers. The pain made her gasp. Ma'am, are you hurt? Sienna nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again. She didn't know how to answer, didn't know what hurt and what didn't anymore. Everything was pain. Everything was fear. Everything was relief. The deputy helped her stand. Her legs nearly gave out. He steadied her, helped her to a chair that wasn't covered in blood, let her sit, gave her space, asked if she needed medical. She shook her head, just wanted her girls, just wanted to go home. She looked across the room at Cole, at the man in leather who had walked into hell and pulled her out, who had fought for her without knowing her, who had kept a promise to her daughters without them even knowing he had made it. Thank you. Her voice was barely a whisper, broken, hoarse from screaming, from crying, from everything, but sincere, more sincere than anything she had ever said. Cole nodded once, that was all. Just a nod, no smile, no grand gesture, just acknowledgement. He had done what he came to do. The rest was formality. Outside, more vehicles arrived. An ambulance, another patrol car, the cavalry that was always too late, always arrived after the real work was done. They filled the cabin, asked questions, took statements, documented everything. Cole answered what he needed to, said nothing more. 20 minutes later, they let him outside, put him in the back of a patrol car, not under arrest, just for transport. His bike was here, but Sienna needed a ride back, and there was only one vehicle with heat. They put her in the front, wrapped her in a blanket, started the engine and cranked the heat. The car pulled away from the cabin, down the mountain, back toward civilization, toward light, toward the gas station where two girls waited for their mother to come home. Cole sat in the back, silent, watching the snow fall, watching the trees pass, thinking about nothing and everything at once. They pulled into the gas station lot. The lights were bright, too bright after the darkness. 6 motorcycles still sat near the entrance. 6 bikers still surrounded the bench. And on that bench, 2 girls sat wrapped in blankets, holding empty cups, waiting. The patrol car stopped. Before it had fully stopped, Sienna threw open the door. She didn't wait, didn't ask permission, just ran, stumbled through the snow, her legs barely working, but moving, had to move, had to get to them. Harper, Bryn, both girls turned. Their eyes went wide. Didn't believe it, couldn't believe it. Then Bryn screamed, "Mommy!" She broke away from the bikers, ran. Harper followed. They collided in the middle of the lot. All three of them, arms and tears and voices saying, "I'm sorry," and "It's okay," and "I love you" over and over. They dropped to their knees in the snow, held each other, cried, let everything out that they had been holding in for hours. Cole watched from the patrol car, through the window. He didn't get out, didn't interrupt. This wasn't his moment. This was theirs. He had done his part, had kept his promise. The rest was up to them. But Bryn lifted her head, looked around. Her eyes found the patrol car, found Cole sitting in the back. She pulled away from her mother and sister, started walking toward him. Her steps were unsteady. Her face was wet, but she kept coming. She stopped at the car door, looked in at him. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. This tiny girl and the broken man who had saved her mother. Then Bryn did something that would stay with Cole for the rest of his life. She pressed her hand against the window, flat, palm and fingers, and she smiled. Not a big smile, not a happy smile, just a smile that said, "Thank you." That said, "I knew you would." That said, "You kept your promise." Cole lifted his hand, pressed it against the window from the inside, against her small hand. They stayed like that for a moment. Then Bryn turned and ran back to her mother, back to Harper, back to the family that was whole again because a stranger had ridden through a blizzard and refused to quit. The deputy started the car, began to pull away. Cole looked back, saw Sienna standing now, holding both girls. The 6 bikers around them. Finn saying something that made Harper almost smile. Axel standing to the side, arms crossed, watching, making sure they were safe, making sure nobody bothered them, making sure the promise was complete. The gas station disappeared behind them. The lights faded. The night returned. Cole sat in the darkness, alone, not celebrating, not congratulating himself, just sitting, just breathing, just existing in the space after the storm. He thought about Sarah, about the promise he couldn't keep, about the daughter who was never coming home. The pain was still there, would always be there. But tonight it felt different, lighter somehow, like maybe what he had done mattered, like maybe saving someone else's daughters meant something, like maybe the loss could transform into purpose instead of just staying as loss. The deputy drove him to the clubhouse, let him out, drove away. Cole stood in the parking lot. The snow had stopped, the clouds were breaking, stars were visible between them. Cold and distant and infinite. He walked inside. The clubhouse was empty. Everyone was still at the gas station. He went to his room, small, sparse, just a bed and a dresser and a nightstand. On the nightstand was a photograph, a little girl with brown curls and a smile that could light up the world. Cole picked it up, held it, looked at his daughter's face. "I helped 2 little girls tonight," he said quietly. "Kept them safe, brought their mom home." He paused, his thumb traced the edge of the frame. "I'm still trying, sweetheart. I'll never stop." He set the photograph down, lay back on the bed, didn't take off his boots, didn't take off his cut, just lay there in the dark, exhausted, aching, but feeling something he hadn't felt in 8 years, like maybe he had done enough, just for tonight, just for now, like maybe that was okay. Outside, the wind picked up again. The storm wasn't over, just resting, gathering strength. Tomorrow it would start again. Tomorrow there would be more people who needed help, more children in danger, more promises to keep. But tonight the promise was kept. Tonight 2 girls had their mother back. Tonight Cole Brennan had walked into darkness and brought someone home. Tonight Ghost had earned his name by refusing to disappear when it mattered most. Cole woke at dawn. He hadn't really slept, just closed his eyes and let time pass. His body ached from the ride, from the fight, from holding tension in every muscle for hours. His hands were stiff, fingers swollen from the cold, but he was alive. And more importantly, so was Sienna Hart. He sat up, looked at the photograph on the nightstand. Sarah smiled back at him. Forever seven, forever frozen in that moment before everything changed. He touched the frame gently, then stood, stretched, felt his spine crack and pop, felt every one of his 46 years. The clubhouse was quiet. Most of the brothers had stayed at the gas station until late, making sure Sienna and the girls got home safe, making sure they had food, heat, everything they needed. That's what Thunder Road did. Showed up, stayed, made sure the job was complete. Cole walked to the bathroom, turned on the shower, let it run until steam filled the small space. Stepped under the water. It was too hot, burned his frozen skin. He didn't adjust it, just stood there in the letter and let it hurt. Let it wake him up. Let it wash away the snow and the fear and the adrenaline that still hummed under his skin. He thought about the man in the cabin, Logan, the way he had smiled while Sienna cried, the casual cruelty in his voice, the practiced movements, like he had done this before, like it was routine. That thought wouldn't leave Cole alone, wouldn't let him rest. Men like that didn't appear overnight, didn't wake up one day and decide to kidnap someone. They built to it, practiced, refined their methods, left trails. Cole dried off, got dressed, walked to the main room of the clubhouse. Axel was already there, sitting at the long table with a laptop open, coffee steaming in a mug beside him. He looked up when Cole entered. Morning ghost, Cole nodded, poured himself coffee from the pot on the counter. Black, no sugar, sat down across from Axel. Couldn't sleep either, Axel asked. Cole shook his head. Been digging. Axel turned the laptop around so Cole could see. Ran Logan Pierce through every database I could access, official and otherwise. What did you find? Axel's expression was grim. Logan Pierce isn't his real name. Cole felt his stomach drop. What Axel pulled up a document, a police report from Montana, 3 years ago. Same face, different name. Christopher Wade, arrested for harassment and stalking. Single mother, met her online. Got too possessive. She filed a restraining order. Charges were dropped when she suddenly moved out of state. Cole stared at the screen. Keep going. Axel clicked to another file. Idaho. 2 years ago. David Sullivan. Same pattern. Single mom. Online relationship. She disappeared for 3 days. Showed up at a police station 50 miles away. Refused to press charges. Said it was a misunderstanding. Another file. Colorado. 18 months ago. Marcus Holt. Another single mother. She filed a report. Said he had taken her to a cabin. Tied her up. She escaped through a window. By the time police went to investigate, he was gone. No trace. Just an empty cabin and a rental car abandoned at the airport. How many? Cole's voice was flat. Axel looked at him. At least 4 identities we've found so far. That's just what's in the system. Who knows how many more? How many women who never reported? How many who didn't survive to report? The words hung in the air between them. Heavy, dark, undeniable. Cole's hands tightened around his coffee mug. The ceramic was hot against his palms. He welcomed the burn. The police know this. They do now. Axel closed the laptop. I sent everything to the lead detective on Sienna's case. Detective named Graham. Good guy. Former Marine. He called me at 5 this morning. Said they're pulling every file they can find. Cross-referencing. Building a case. Cole nodded. Good. There's more. Axel's voice got quieter. 2 women, one in Utah, one in Montana. Both single mothers. Both met men online who matched this pattern. Both disappeared. Never found. Those cases are still open. Cole felt something cold settle in his chest. When Utah was 4 years ago, Montana 2.5, and they think it's him. Can't prove it. Not yet. But the similarities. Axel shook his head. It's him, ghost. We both know it. Cole stood, walked to the window, looked out at the empty parking lot, at the gray morning light spreading across the snow. He thought about Sienna, about how close she had come, about the fact that she had daughters who would have grown up never knowing what happened to their mother, just like those other children, just like Sarah. His reflection stared back at him from the window. Tired eyes, gray beard, leather cut with patches that told stories most people would never understand. He looked like what he was, a man who had lost everything, who had found purpose in the wreckage, who kept going because stopping wasn't an option. Behind him, Axel spoke again. The news is going to pick this up, probably today. Serial predator caught. Biker helps rescue victim. All of it. You ready for that? Cole turned, looked at his president, his brother. No, but it doesn't matter. Axel smiled, small, sad, never does. The day unfolded in ways Cole couldn't have predicted. By noon, the story had broken. Local news first, then regional, then national. Logan Pierce's face appeared on every channel. His mugshot stared out from screens across the country. The headlines called him what he was: predator, serial offender, monster. But there was another story running alongside it. The story of two little girls abandoned in a snowstorm. The story of a biker who refused to walk away. The story of a rescue that shouldn't have worked, but did. The media loved that story, ate it up, turned it into something bigger than it was. By evening, Cole's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Interview requests, questions, people wanting comments. He ignored all of it, turned off his phone, sat in the clubhouse and waited for the noise to die down. It didn't die down. The next morning, a reporter showed up at the clubhouse. Young woman, mid-20s, earnest face. She knocked on the door until Finn answered. Asked to speak to the man who saved Sienna Hart. Finn told her to leave. She refused. Said the public had a right to know. Said this was important. Said people needed to hear good stories. Needed to see heroes. Finn closed the door in her face. But she came back the next day. And the day after that. Different reporters, different stations, all wanting the same thing. The story, the details, the emotion. Cole remained invisible, stayed in the back, let the others handle it. He had done what he needed to do. The rest was noise. 3 days after the rescue, Cole rode to the grocery store. Needed supplies, needed to get out of the clubhouse, needed to clear his head. He parked his bike, walked inside, grabbed a basket, started down the aisles. A woman approached him. Older, maybe 60. She stopped directly in front of him. He tried to move around her. She moved with him, blocked his path. "Excuse me," she said. Cole looked at her. "Ma'am, you're him, aren't you? The man who saved that woman and her girls?" Cole said nothing. "I saw you on the news. The leather jacket, the patches. You're him." Cole tried to step around her again. She grabbed his arm. He stopped, looked down at her hand, then at her face. She was crying. "Thank you." Her voice cracked. "My daughter. She was in a situation like that 2 years ago. Different man, different state, but the same. Nobody helped her. Nobody came. She didn't make it out." Cole felt his chest tighten. "I'm sorry." The woman shook her head. "Don't be sorry. Just thank you for helping that woman, for showing up, for not walking away. You gave those girls their mother back. You gave them what my grandchildren didn't get. So thank you." She let go of his arm, wiped her eyes, walked away. Cole stood there in the middle of the aisle holding a basket and trying to breathe. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The store music played something cheerful and hollow. People moved around him, going about their lives, not knowing, not understanding. He finished his shopping, paid, left, rode back to the clubhouse. Didn't tell anyone about the woman. Didn't know how to explain what it meant. Didn't have words for the way it made him feel. That night at the clubhouse, Axel gathered everyone. 12 brothers in the main room. Coffee and beer on the table. The mood was serious. Axel stood at the head of the table, looked at each of them. "We need to talk about what happened, about what it means." Finn spoke up. "Means we did the right thing. Means Ghost saved a woman and her kids. That's what it means." Axel nodded. "It does. But it also means something changed. The community. The way people look at us. You've all seen it. The attention, the thanks, the recognition." Cole leaned back in his chair. "Where are you going with this?" Axel looked at him. "This is a chance, Ghost. A chance to show people who we really are. Not the image, not the stereotype. The reality. We've been doing this work for years. Helping families, missing kids, community support, but always in the shadows. always quietly. Maybe it's time we stepped into the light. Cole shook his head. We don't do this for recognition. I know that. We all know that. But recognition means resources, means connections, means more people we can help. Axel crossed his arms. I'm not saying we change who we are. I'm saying we let people see who we've always been. The room was quiet. The brothers looked at each other. Years of being judged, years of being feared, years of proving themselves over and over to a world that didn't want to see. Now maybe the world was finally paying attention. 1 week after the rescue, an envelope arrived at the clubhouse. Addressed to Ghost. No return address. Just a name written in careful letters. Bryn. Cole opened it alone. Inside was a single piece of paper. Construction paper. Yellow. A drawing made with crayons. A motorcycle with big wheels. A man in a leather jacket. Snow falling in white and blue streaks. The man had a gray beard. A smile that didn't quite look like Cole's face but was clearly meant to be him. Above the drawing were 3 words in uneven child's handwriting. My hero, Ghost. Below it, a note in adult writing. Sienna's writing. Thank you for keeping your promise. We will never forget. Harper Bryn and Sienna Hart. Cole stared at the drawing for a long time, at the crooked wheels and the simple shapes in the careful attempt to capture something that mattered. He folded it carefully, put it in his wallet, in the pocket next to Sarah's photograph. 2 little girls, 1 he couldn't save, 2 he could. The investigation into Logan Pierce expanded daily. Detective Graham worked 16-hour days, pulling files, making calls, following leads that went back years. What he found painted a picture of a man who had been hunting for a long time. Logan Pierce had been born James Logan Winters in Ohio 42 years ago. Clean childhood, normal family. Nothing in his early years suggested what he would become. He graduated high school, attended community college, worked sales jobs, got married at 25, divorced at 28, no children. The divorce seemed to be the turning point. His ex-wife had filed a protective order, said he became obsessive, controlling, would show up at her work, her friends' houses, wouldn't accept that it was over. Eventually she moved across the country, changed her name. He couldn't find her. After that, the pattern began. He would target single mothers, women who were vulnerable, who wanted connection, who needed help. He would present himself as successful, stable, someone who could make their lives easier. He studied them, learned their routines, their weaknesses, their fears. Then he would isolate them, slowly at first. Suggestions that their friends didn't really care, that their families didn't understand, that he was the only one who truly loved them. By the time they realized what was happening, it was usually too late. The laptop they found in the cabin told the whole story, files organized by state and year, photographs of women he had targeted, notes about their schedules, their children, their vulnerabilities, a journal that read like a hunting log, dates, locations, outcomes. Some outcomes were marked successful. Those were the women who got away, who reported him, who forced him to move and change identities. Others were marked incomplete. Those were the ones where something went wrong, where his plans didn't work out, where he had to abandon the operation. 2 were marked permanent. Utah and Montana, the 2 women who had never been found. Detective Graham read those entries and felt his blood run cold. Logan had written about them like they were trophies, like they were accomplishments. The FBI got involved, though. This was interstate. Multiple victims, multiple identities. Federal crimes stacked on state charges. They brought resources. Once a technology. Within 2 weeks, they had connected Logan to 6 confirmed victims across 5 states, with more leads coming in daily. Sienna Hart's case became the keystone. She had survived. She could testify. She could identify him. She could tell her story in a courtroom and make a jury understand exactly what kind of man they were dealing with. The prosecutors built their case around her. But testifying meant reliving it, meant facing him again, meant standing in front of strangers and describing the worst night of her life in clinical detail, meant having defense attorneys try to discredit her, blame her, make her the villain of her own story. She wasn't sure she could do it. 2 weeks after the rescue, Cole rode to Riverview Trailer Court. He hadn't been back since the night he found the girls at the gas station. Hadn't wanted to intrude, hadn't wanted to make things complicated. But Detective Graham had called him, said Sienna was struggling, said she was thinking about not testifying, said maybe Cole could help. He found the Hart trailer easily. Number 47, small, old, but well-maintained. Flower boxes in the windows even though it was winter. A welcome mat at the door. Signs of someone trying to make a home out of very little. He knocked. Footsteps inside. The door opened. Harper stood there. She had grown in 2 weeks, or maybe just seemed taller, more solid. Like surviving something terrible had aged her in ways that couldn't be measured in time. Mr. Ghost, her voice was steady, surprised but not scared. Cole nodded. Hi, Harper. Your mom home? Harper turned, called into the trailer. Mom, someone's here for you. Sienna appeared behind Harper. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore sweatpants and an oversized sweater, the kind of clothes you wear when you've given up caring what you look like, when survival is all that matters. Cole, she said softly. I didn't expect. She trailed off, didn't finish the sentence, just stood there looking at him like he was something she had dreamed, something that couldn't be real. Can I come in? Sienna stepped aside. Of course, yes, please. Cole entered. The trailer was small but clean, organized. A couch that had seen better days. A kitchen table with 4 mismatched chairs. Homework spread across the table. Bryn sat there coloring. She looked up when Cole entered. Her face lit up. Mr. Ghost. She jumped down from the chair, ran to him, wrapped her arms around his leg just like she had at the gas station. Cole froze, then slowly put his hand on her head. Hey, Bryn, did you get my picture? Cole pulled out his wallet, showed her the folded yellow paper. I carry it with me. Bryn's smile could have powered the sun. Really? Really? Harper was watching from near the door, arms crossed, expression guarded, protective. She had been the one responsible, the one who kept her sister safe, the one who made the hard choices. She wasn't ready to let her guard down yet. Sienna gestured to the couch. Would you like to sit? Can I get you coffee? Coffee would be good. She disappeared into the kitchen. Cole sat. Bryn climbed up next to him, pressed against his side like they were old friends, like he was someone safe, someone who had proven himself. Harper stayed standing, watching. Sienna returned with 2 mugs, handed one to Cole, sat in the chair across from him. They were quiet for a moment, just the sound of Bryn humming while she colored, the heater clicking on, the normal sounds of life continuing despite everything. Detective Graham called me, Cole said finally. Told me you're thinking about not testifying. Sienna's hands tightened around her mug. He shouldn't have done that. He's worried. I know. Sienna looked down. I know what's at stake. I know that man needs to go to prison, that he needs to be stopped. But the thought of seeing him again, of having to talk about what happened in front of all those people. She stopped. Her voice had started to shake. And his lawyer, she continued. His lawyer already called me, tried to. I don't know. Make it seem like it wasn't that bad. Like I went willingly, like I could have left at any time, like it was my fault for going with him in the first place. Cole listened, didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it, just let her talk. My girls, Sienna's eyes filled with tears. They've been through so much. Harper won't sleep unless I'm in the room. Bryn has nightmares every night. They're starting to heal, starting to feel safe again. If I testify, it brings it all back, makes it real again. I don't know if I can do that to them. Harper spoke from her spot by the door. Her voice was quiet but firm. Do it. Sienna looked at her. What? Testify. Harper's jaw was set. He hurt you. He would have killed you. And there are other women. Women who didn't get saved. You have to tell what happened, so he can't do it again. Baby, you don't understand. I do understand. Harper's voice got louder. I understand that if you don't testify, he might get out. He might do it to someone else. Someone else's mom. And those kids will be sitting outside a gas station in the snow. And maybe no one will come for them. The words hit Sienna like a physical blow. She opened her mouth, closed it, had no response. Cole set down his coffee, leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You're scared. That's normal. What you went through, what you survived. That kind of fear doesn't just go away because the danger is over. Sienna wiped her eyes. Then how do I do it? How do I walk into a courtroom and face him again? You don't do it alone. Cole's voice was steady, calm, absolute. I'll be there. The brothers will be there. Detective Graham will be there. An entire room of people who believe you, who know what he is, who won't let him hurt you again. But what if I can't? What if I freeze? What if I forget what to say? Then you take a breath and you try again. And if you still can't, then you try again. You keep trying until the words come. And the whole time you remember two little girls who need their mother to show them that fear doesn't get to win, that evil doesn't get to walk away, that doing hard things matters. Sienna looked at Harper, at Bryn coloring quietly, at these two lives that depended on her, that needed her to be strong even when she didn't feel strong, that needed her to do the impossible because it was right. Okay. Her voice was barely a whisper. Okay, I'll do it. 3 days later, the newspaper ran a feature story. Front page, photograph of Cole and two other Thunder Road members standing in front of the clubhouse. The headline read, "The Heroes in Leather." The article told the whole story. The girls abandoned at the gas station. The mother kidnapped by a serial predator. The biker who rode through a blizzard and brought her home. It talked about Thunder Road MC, about their community work, their missing children awareness rides, their support for domestic violence survivors. It painted them not as outlaws, but as protectors, as men who had chosen to use their strength to help instead of hurt. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Thank you cards started arriving at the clubhouse, dozens of them, then hundreds. Handwritten notes from mothers and grandmothers, from children who had seen the story on the news, from people who had been helped by the club over the years, but never had a chance to say thanks. A bakery in town started dropping off boxes of donuts every Saturday morning. Free. Just because. A hardware store called and said any Thunder Road member got a 20% discount on parts and supplies. No questions asked, a local restaurant hung a sign in the window. Thunder Road eats free. People who used to cross the street when they saw the patches now waved. Said hello, asked about the rescue. Wanted to know how Sienna and the girls were doing. Wanted to contribute to whatever the club was doing next. The transformation was surreal. Axel didn't know how to handle it. None of them did. They had spent years being judged, being feared, being treated like criminals because of how they looked. Now suddenly they were heroes. It should have felt good. It did feel good, but it also felt fragile, like something that could disappear as fast as it appeared. Cole handled it by doing what he always did, keeping his head down, staying quiet, letting others take the spotlight. He didn't want recognition, didn't want praise. He had done what needed to be done, the same way he always did. The attention made him uncomfortable, made him feel like a fraud. One afternoon, a young couple approached him at a gas station. Different gas station, different time, but the same kind of interaction. The man was nervous. The woman was crying. "Are you Cole Brennan?" the man asked. Cole nodded slowly. The woman stepped forward. "My sister, she was in Utah 4 years ago. Jessica Monroe. She disappeared. They never found her." Cole felt his stomach drop. "I'm sorry, the police say." The woman's voice broke. "They say the man you caught might be responsible. That he might have. That she might have." She couldn't finish. Her husband put his arm around her. "We just wanted to thank you," the man said, "for stopping him, for making sure he can't do it to anyone else. It doesn't bring Jessica back, but it means something. It means her death wasn't for nothing." They walked away before Cole could respond, left him standing by his bike with their grief hanging in the air around him. He thought about the 2 entries in Logan's laptop marked permanent, thought about women who were never coming home, about children who grew up without mothers, about the ripples of damage one man could cause. That night, Cole sat alone in his room. The photograph of Sarah on the nightstand, the crayon drawing from Bryn in his wallet, the weight of 2 women who died and 2 girls who didn't. He thought about the question he asked himself every day. Was it enough? Was saving some people enough when you couldn't save them all? When you carried the weight of the ones who slipped through your fingers? When you knew that for every happy ending, there were a dozen tragedies you never even heard about? He didn't have an answer, probably never would. But sitting there in the dark, he realized something. The weight in his chest. The stone that had been there for 8 years. The thing that made it hard to breathe sometimes. It was lighter. Not gone. Never gone. But lighter. Saving Sienna hadn't brought Sarah back. Hadn't undone what happened. Hadn't made the pain disappear. But it had proved something. That the loss could transform. That it could become purpose instead of just staying as loss. That maybe Sarah's death didn't have to be meaningless if it pushed him to save others. The trial was set for 3 months out. Logan Pierce was being held without bail. Multiple charges across multiple states. The federal charges alone could put him away for life. But the prosecutors wanted state charges too. Wanted multiple convictions. Wanted to make absolutely certain he never walked free. Sienna prepared with the help of a victim advocate, practiced her testimony, learned how to handle cross-examination, built up armor against the questions that would try to break her. Cole attended some of the prep sessions, sat in the back, gave her someone to look at when she needed strength. Harper and Bryn saw counselors twice a week, worked through the trauma, the fear, the abandonment, the way that one night had changed everything. They were resilient. Kids always were. But resilience didn't mean unharmed. It just meant surviving. They would carry this forever. The trick was teaching them how to carry it without being crushed. Thunder Road started hosting community events, safety workshops, self-defense classes, awareness campaigns about online predators. They brought in experts, police, social workers, survivors, turned the clubhouse into a space for healing instead of just a place to drink and work on bikes. Axel stood in front of the room at the first event, looked at the 50 people who had shown up. Regular people, families, single mothers, people who 6 months ago would never have walked into an MC clubhouse. "We're not here to tell you we're heroes," Axel said. "We're not. We're just people who decided that protecting the vulnerable matters, that showing up matters, that doing the hard thing when it would be easier to look away matters. And we want to help others do the same." The room applauded, not because it was dramatic, because it was true, because they believed him, because Thunder Road had proved it. After the event, an older man approached Cole. He walked slowly, used a cane, but his eyes were sharp, knowing. "You don't remember me, do you?" Cole looked at him, studied his face, shook his head. "Jim Carver, Casper Police Department. Retired now. But I was one of the investigators on your daughter's case." Cole went very still. "Mr. Carver, I heard about what you did, saving that woman and her girls." The old detective's voice was rough. "And I wanted you to know what happened to Sarah. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your wife's fault. Sometimes evil just happens. Sometimes there's nothing anyone could have done." Cole said nothing and couldn't speak. "But what you did, using that pain, using that loss, turning it into something that saves others." Jim shook his head. "That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Your daughter would be proud." He walked away, left Cole standing there trying to breathe, trying not to fall apart, trying to believe that maybe it was true, that maybe Sarah would be proud, that maybe 8 years of guilt could start to become something else. The snow melted slowly that year. Winter held on longer than usual. But eventually the ice on the roads turned to water. The gray skies gave way to blue. Spring came the way it always came. Slowly, then all at once. The world waking up from something that felt like death. For Cole it felt symbolic, like he was waking up too. Not from death, from something close to it. From 8 years of just existing instead of living. Of going through motions instead of feeling them. The weight was still there, would always be there. But he could breathe around it now, could function, could believe that maybe there was a point to continuing. One morning he woke early, before dawn, got on his bike, rode out to the cemetery where Sarah was buried. He hadn't been there in 6 months, couldn't handle it most days, but today felt different. He parked, walked through the gates, found her headstone, Sarah Elizabeth Brennan, beloved daughter, forever 7, forever loved. Cole knelt in the grass, pulled a few weeds that had grown around the stone, traced her name with his finger. "I saved 2 little girls," he said quietly. Harper and Bryn, their mom too. You would have liked them. They were scared, like you must have been. But they were brave. They held on. They survived. The wind moved through the trees, carried the sound of birds waking up, of the world continuing. I'm still here, Cole continued. Still trying, still looking for ways to make it matter, to make losing you mean something. I don't know if that's what you'd want. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's all I know how to do. He stood, looked at the stone for a long moment, then turned and walked back to his bike. The sun was coming up over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. A new day, another chance, another opportunity to do something that mattered. Cole rode back to the clubhouse. The brothers were starting to wake up. Coffee brewing, engines turning over, the sounds of life continuing. He parked, walked inside. Finn was at the counter pouring coffee. Morning, Ghost, morning. Sleep okay? Cole poured himself a cup. Better than usual. Good. Finn grinned, Hud. Because we got a call this morning. Missing teenager, last seen 2 days ago. Parents are frantic. Police are involved, but... He shrugged. You know how it goes. They asked if we could help search. Axel said yes. Cole nodded. When do we leave I'll be ready. He took his coffee to his room, sat on the edge of the bed, looked at Sarah's photograph, at Bryn's drawing, at the evidence that loss could transform into purpose. That pain could become something useful instead of something that just destroyed. The phone in his pocket buzzed. Text message. From Sienna, just 4 words, thank you for everything. Cole stared at the message, didn't know how to respond. What could he say? You're welcome didn't cover it. It was nothing was a lie. He had done something. Something that mattered. Something that changed lives. Finally, he typed back. Just did what needed doing. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her response. You gave me my life back. You gave my girls their mother. That's everything. Cole put the phone down, looked at the ceiling, tried to process emotions that didn't have names. Gratitude, purpose, hope. Things he hadn't felt in so long he'd forgotten what they were called. Outside, someone called his name. Time to ride, time to search. Time to show up for someone else who needed help. Cole stood, put on his cut, checked that he had everything. Wallet with Sarah's photo and Bryn's drawing. Phone, keys. The weight of 8 years that he carried everywhere, but that felt different now. Lighter. More like ballast than burden. He walked out into the morning, mounted his bike, kicked it to life. The engine rumbled beneath him. Familiar, constant, real. 6 other bikes lined up beside him. Brothers who rode because it mattered. Who showed up because someone had to. Axel raised his hand, dropped it. 7 bikes rolled out in formation. Through the gate, onto the highway, towards someone who needed them, toward purpose, toward proof that sometimes the world didn't have to win. Sometimes good people showed up. Sometimes that was enough. Cole rode and thought about what Jim Carver had said, about Sarah being proud, about bravery, about turning loss into something that saved others. He didn't know if it was true, didn't know if Sarah would be proud or angry or heartbroken that he had survived when she didn't. But he knew this. Every time he showed up, every time he rode into danger, every time he kept a promise to a 6-year-old girl sitting in the snow, he was choosing to believe that loss could mean something, that pain could transform, that the worst thing that ever happened to him didn't have to be the end of everything. It could be the beginning of something else. The road stretched ahead, empty, open, full of possibility. Somewhere out there, a family was terrified. A teenager was missing. People needed help. And Cole Brennan, Ghost, the man who lost everything and found purpose in the wreckage. He was riding toward them, not running from his past, not hiding from his pain, riding toward someone who needed him, toward the next promise, the next chance to prove that showing up mattered, that doing the hard thing when it would be easier to look away was what separated living from just existing. The wind hit his face, the sun climbed higher, the road went on forever. And Cole rode toward whatever came next, not because he was a hero, because he was a man who understood loss, who knew what it felt like to be helpless. Who had decided that if he couldn't change his own story, he could at least change someone else's? That was enough. For today. For now. For this moment on this road heading toward this person who needed help. It was enough, and somewhere in his wallet. Pressed between his daughter's photograph and a little girl's crayon drawing, the weight of 8 years transformed into proof that sometimes broken things could be useful, that sometimes the worst pain could become the strongest purpose, that sometimes the only way through grief was to turn it into something that mattered. Cole rode, the engine beneath him, the wind against him, the weight lighter than it had been in years, and ahead on the road the future waited, full of people who needed saving, full of promises to keep, full of chances to prove that loss didn't have to be the end, that it could be the beginning of everything that mattered. The ghost rode on, no longer haunted, no longer running, just riding, toward purpose, toward meaning, toward the next person who needed someone to show up when everyone else walked away. That was who he was now. That was who he would always be. And that, for the first time in 8 years, felt like enough. The courtroom was silent when they brought Logan Pierce in. He wore an orange jumpsuit that made his skin look sallow. His hands were cuffed in front of him. His face was blank, carefully neutral, like he was bored by the proceedings, like this was an inconvenience rather than justice catching up. Sienna sat in the front row of the gallery. Cole sat 3 seats behind her, close enough if she needed him, far enough to give her space. Harper and Bryn were with a counselor in a waiting room down the hall, too young to be in the courtroom, too fragile to face the man who had almost destroyed their family. Detective Graham sat at the prosecution table, 3 months of work distilled into binders full of evidence, witness statements, digital forensics, financial records showing how many times Logan had changed identities, how many states he had operated in, how many women he had targeted. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The formal dance of justice began. Opening statements. The prosecution painted Logan as a predator who had spent years perfecting his methods, who had targeted vulnerable women with calculated precision, who had left a trail of trauma across 5 states, who would have continued if Cole Brennan hadn't intervened. The defense tried a different angle, said Logan had relationship problems, said he struggled with boundaries, said what happened with Sienna was a misunderstanding that got out of hand, said he never intended real harm, just wanted connection, just wanted love, just made poor choices. The prosecution called their first witness, a woman from Montana, 38 years old, single mother of 1. She had dated Logan 3 years ago under the name Christopher Wade. He had seemed perfect at first, attentive, generous, understanding. Then he became possessive, controlling. When she tried to break it off, he showed up at her work, at her home, at her son's school. She got a restraining order. 2 days later, he was gone, vanished. She never saw him again, but she lived in fear for a year, afraid he would come back, afraid of what he might do. Her voice shook as she testified. She didn't look at Logan, couldn't look at him. The defense cross-examined, tried to suggest she had encouraged his attention, that she had sent mixed signals, that his behavior was a normal response to a confusing situation. The woman's voice got stronger, harder. "No," she said firmly. "I told him no. I told him to leave me alone. I made it clear." He chose not to listen. 3 more women testified over 2 days. Similar stories, different details, same pattern, charm that became control, love that became obsession, men who seemed perfect until they weren't, until the mask slipped and something cold and calculating showed underneath. Then it was Sienna's turn. She walked to the witness stand like she was walking to her execution. Her legs shook, her hands trembled. She had to be sworn in twice because her voice was too quiet the first time. The prosecutor was gentle, led her through the story slowly. How she met Logan online, how he seemed kind, how she was lonely, how she wanted to believe something good could happen. Sienna described the date, the restaurant, the way Logan had been charming all evening, then the suggestion of a drive, the way the charm had dropped as soon as they were alone, the isolated cabin, the zip ties, the realization that she might never see her daughters again. Her voice broke multiple times. The judge called for breaks. She drank water, steadied herself, continued. She described the fear, the helplessness, the certainty that she was going to die, and then Cole appearing, this stranger who fought for her, who saved her, who brought her home. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Even the defense attorney looked uncomfortable. The prosecutor had no more questions. Just let Sienna's testimony stand, raw, honest, undeniable. The defendant's cross-examination was brutal. They suggested she had gone willingly, that she could have left at any time, that she had never said no, that she was exaggerating for sympathy, for attention, for a lawsuit they implied was coming. Sienna sat in that chair and took it. Every accusation, every implication, every attempt to make her the villain of her own story. Her voice stayed steady. Her answers stayed consistent. And when the defense attorney asked if she was certain Logan had intended to hurt her, she looked directly at him for the first time. Yes, her voice was clear, strong. I am certain. He told me I wasn't the first, that I wouldn't be the last. He told me about the others, the ones who didn't make it out. He was going to kill me. The only reason I'm alive is because someone came. Someone who didn't have to. Someone who chose to help when everyone else chose to look away. The defense had no response to that. Sienna was excused. She walked back to her seat. Cole met her eyes, nodded once. She nodded back, sat down, put her face in her hands, and breathed for what felt like the first time in hours. The prosecution called their final witness. Cole Brennan. He took the stand, gave his name, his age, his occupation, self-employed, motorcycle mechanic, member of Thunder Road MC. The prosecutor walked him through that night, finding Harper and Bryn at the gas station, making the promise, tracking Sienna to the cabin, the confrontation with Logan, the fight, the arrest. Cole's answers were short, factual. He didn't embellish, didn't make himself sound heroic, just described what happened. The defense tried to paint him as violent. It was someone who broke into private property, who assaulted Logan, who had no authority to do what he did. Cole listened to the questions, answered calmly. Did you have a warrant to enter that cabin? Numb. Did you identify yourself as law enforcement? Numb. Did you physically assault my client? I subdued him to protect Ms. Hart. You attacked him. I stopped him from hurting her. That's not the same as assault. That's not what my client says. Your client is a liar. The judge warned Cole to stick to facts. Cole nodded, continued answering questions. The defense got nowhere. Every attempt to discredit him bounced off. He had saved a woman's life. Everyone in that courtroom knew it. Trying to make him look bad only made the defense look desperate. After 5 days of testimony, the case went to the jury. They deliberated for 6 hours, came back with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Kidnapping, assault, false imprisonment. The state charges were just the beginning. Federal charges waited. Other states had cases ready. Logan Pierce would spend the rest of his life in prison. Multiple life sentences, no possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, Logan's face didn't change. Still blank, still neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Just for a moment. Rage. Pure rage. Then it was gone, replaced by nothing. Sienna cried. Detective Graham shook the prosecutor's hand. The families of the other women held each other. And Cole sat in the back row feeling something he couldn't quite name. Not satisfaction, not joy, just completion. A job done, a promise kept. Justice served even if justice couldn't undo what had happened. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones, questions shouted over each other. The prosecutor gave a statement, thanked the survivors for their courage, thanked law enforcement, mentioned Cole by name, called him instrumental to the case, called him a hero. Cole slipped out a side exit, avoided the cameras, rode back to the clubhouse alone, let the others have the spotlight. He had done what needed doing. The rest was noise. 6 months after the trial, Sienna Hart stood in front of a room full of strangers and told her story. Not in a courtroom, in a community center, at a domestic violence awareness event. She had been asked to speak by the organization that had helped her after the rescue, had said no 3 times, finally said yes because Harper had asked her to. The room held maybe 60 people, social workers, counselors, survivors, family members. People who understood that violence came in many forms, that monsters didn't always look like monsters, that sometimes they looked like someone who sent flowers and made you feel special and promised to make everything better. Sienna's voice shook at first, but she pushed through, told them about meeting Logan online, about wanting to believe, about ignoring the small red flags because she was lonely, because she wanted something good to happen, because after her husband left, she felt invisible, and Logan made her feel seen. She told them about the cabin, about the fear, about thinking she would never see her daughters again, and then about Cole, about a stranger who rode through a blizzard because two little girls asked for help, about someone who proved that good people still existed, that help could come from unexpected places, that leather jackets and motorcycle patches didn't tell you anything about the size of someone's heart. When she finished, the room was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone. Standing ovation for a woman who had survived, who had testified, who was now using her trauma to help others, to warn them, to show them they weren't alone. After the event, people approached her, thanked her, shared their own stories, whispered confessions about relationships that had scared them, about men who had seemed perfect until they weren't, about narrow escapes and lucky breaks and the guilt that came with surviving when others didn't. A woman from the domestic violence shelter approached Sienna, asked if she would consider volunteering, maybe talking to women who were trying to decide whether to leave, who needed to hear from someone who had been there, who had survived violence, who had come out the other side. Sienna said yes, started volunteering twice a week, sitting with women in crisis, listening to their stories, telling them that leaving was possible, that help existed, that they deserved better than fear, that their children deserved to grow up without violence. She found purpose in it, found meaning in transforming her worst experience into something that helped others, found that telling the story over and over made it hurt less, made it feel less like something that happened to her and more like something she survived, like something she could control. Harper grew up faster than most kids her age. At 15, she was serious, quiet, carried herself like someone much older. The weight of that night had never fully left her. The responsibility, the fear, the feeling that she should have done more, should have known, should have somehow prevented it. Her therapist worked with her for years, slowly unpacking the guilt, helping her understand that she had been a child, that adults were supposed to protect children, not the other way around, that she had done everything right, had been brave, had kept her sister safe, had trusted her instincts when she asked Cole for help. At 14, Harper started volunteering with a program for kids who had experienced trauma. She sat in circles with children who had seen violence, who had lost parents, who had survived things that no child should survive. She listened to their stories, told them about the gas station, about the snow, about being scared, about the man who kept his promise. She told them the same thing her therapist had told her. None of it was your fault. You did everything right. You are brave. Being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And surviving doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to carry it without being crushed. The kids listened, believed her in a way they didn't believe adults. Because she had been there. Because she knew. Because she wasn't speaking from a textbook or training manual. She was speaking from a snowy night 5 years ago when she thought her mother was never coming home. Bryn remembered less as the years passed. The sharp edges of that night softened. The terror faded to something distant, like a bad dream that happened to someone else. Her therapist said that was normal, that young children's brains protected them by making trauma fuzzy, by letting the details slip away. But some things stayed. The feeling of being cold, the sound of her own crying, the moment when Cole crouched down and promised to help. Those moments were crystallized, permanent, would never fade. Every year on the anniversary of the rescue, Bryn made a card, sometimes elaborate, sometimes simple, always addressed to Ghost. Sometimes her mom had to help her find the clubhouse address. Sometimes she remembered it herself. But the card always went out, always said some version of the same thing. Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for bringing my mom home. Thank you for being there when no one else was. Cole kept every card, in the box under his bed, next to the crayon drawing from that first night, next to Sarah's photograph. Evidence that loss could transform. That pain could become purpose. That the worst thing that ever happened to him had somehow led to saving two little girls he never would have met otherwise. Thunder Road MC changed after the rescue. The community stopped seeing them as a threat, stopped crossing the street when they saw the patches, started waving, started stopping to talk, started asking for help with things. Missing children became their specialty. When a kid disappeared, when a teenager ran away, when a family was desperate and the police were stretched thin, Thunder Road showed up. They organized search parties, distributed flyers, covered ground that official searches couldn't cover, found kids in places no one else thought to look. They started teaching self-defense classes at the community center. Free, open to anyone, especially single mothers, especially women who felt vulnerable, who wanted to be able to protect themselves, who needed to believe they weren't helpless. Axel stood in front of each new class, gave the same speech. We're not here to teach you to fight. We're here to teach you to serve, to escape, to recognize danger before it's too late, to trust your instincts, to know that you're worth protecting, that your life matters, that asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The classes filled up immediately. Wait lists formed. Other chapters started offering the same thing. Thunder Road became synonymous with community protection, with showing up, with being people you could count on when everything went wrong. 5 years after the rescue, Thunder Road hosted a community safety event at the high school gymnasium. Rows of folding chairs filled the floor. Tables lined the walls covered with pamphlets and resources. Information about domestic violence, about online predators, about recognizing warning signs, about getting help. Police officers stood near the entrance, not as enforcement, as partners. They gave presentations about what to do if someone went missing, about how to report suspected abuse, about resources available to families in crisis. The relationship between law enforcement and Thunder Road had transformed, from suspicion to respect, from adversaries to allies working toward the same goal. Teachers sat in the front rows. Parents filled the seats behind them. Children sat cross-legged on the floor near the stage. The room buzzed with conversation, with community, with people who had come together because they believed that protecting each other mattered. A police sergeant spoke first, talked about recognizing danger signs, about trusting instincts, about the importance of community watching out for each other, not being paranoid, just being aware, just paying attention, just caring enough to notice when something seemed wrong. A social worker spoke next, explained what to do if a child disclosed abuse, gave out phone numbers and resources, reminded everyone that asking for help wasn't weakness, that reaching out could save a life, that silence protected abusers and endangered victims. Then Sienna walked to the microphone. The room went quiet. Some people knew her story. Others had seen her on the news years ago. But most were just quiet because something in her presence demanded attention, commanded respect, said this woman had survived something terrible and had chosen to stand here and talk about it. Her voice was steady when she spoke, stronger than it had been in the courtroom, stronger than those first events where she had shaken and cried and barely gotten through it. I was saved by a stranger. She said, a man I would have crossed the street to avoid if I'd seen him anywhere else. A man wearing leather and patches that society taught me meant danger. A man who turned out to be the bravest person I've ever met. She told her story, brief, clinical, not dwelling on the horror but acknowledging it. The date, the cabin, the fear, the certainty that she was going to die. And then Cole appearing, fighting for her, bringing her home to her daughters. When she finished, the room had erupted in applause. Not polite applause, real, sustained, people standing, clapping, some crying, because the story wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone who had ever been vulnerable, everyone who had ever needed help, everyone who had ever wondered if anyone would come. Sienna stepped back from the microphone, wiped her eyes, smiled. Then she gestured to someone in the audience. Harper stood, walked to the stage, 15 years old now, tall, serious, carrying herself with purpose. The microphone had to be adjusted for her height. She gripped the sides of the podium, looked out at the audience, found Cole sitting in the back. He nodded. She took a breath. I was 10 years old that night. Harper's voice was clear, strong. My little sister was 6. We were alone in the snow because an adult decided we didn't matter, because helping us was inconvenient, because we weren't customers. The room was absolutely silent. I thought we were going to freeze, thought my mom was never coming back, thought we were going to end up like our dad, just gone, just disappeared, just another sad story that people would forget about. Harper's hands tightened on the podium, but then someone stopped. Someone who had no reason to help us. Someone who had every reason to keep driving. Because society taught him that men who looked like him shouldn't approach children, that people would judge, that he would be seen as a threat instead of help. She paused, let that sink in. He stopped anyway. He listened. He believed us. And he kept his promise. Not because it was easy, because it was right. Harper looked directly at the audience. If something feels wrong to you, trust that, tell someone, ask for help, even if you're scared, even if you think no one will listen, even if you think no one cares. Someone will. Someone always will. You just have to be brave enough to ask. The applause was even louder this time. Harper walked back to her seat, sat next to her mother. Sienna put an arm around her, pulled her close. Both of them surviving, both of them healing, both of them proving that trauma didn't have to destroy you. It could make you stronger. If you had help, if you had people who refused to let you face it alone. Bryn sat in the front row next to Cole. She was 11 now, still small, still shy. She didn't speak, wasn't ready for that. But she sat there holding Cole's hand, her presence saying what words couldn't, that she remembered, that she was grateful, that the man everyone feared had been the one who saved her family. After the event, people lingered, talking, exchanging numbers, making connections, building community in real time. Cole tried to slip out the side door, avoid the attention, just disappear the way he always did. A reporter caught him, young man, mid-20s, earnest face, camera crew behind him. They had been filming the event, documenting it, turning it into a story for the evening news. Mr. Brennan, can I ask you one question? Cole stopped, looked at the reporter. Didn't say yes, didn't say no, just waited. Why do you do this? The reporter's voice was genuine, curious. Why risk everything for people you don't even know? Cole stood there. The gymnasium lights hummed overhead. The murmur of voices faded into background noise. He looked at the reporter, at the camera, at the opportunity to explain himself that he never wanted. Then he thought about Sarah, about Sienna, about Harper and Bryn, about the 2 women from Utah and Montana who never came home, about the weight he carried and the purpose he had found, about the question he had asked himself 1,000 times, because someone has to. His voice was quiet, steady, final. The reporter waited for more. There was no more. Cole turned and walked away, pushed through the door into the evening air, mounted his bike, rode away as the last light faded from the sky. The years continued to pass. Sienna became a full-time advocate, quit her job at the diner, started working for the domestic violence shelter, speaking, training, helping women escape situations like the one she had survived. She was good at it, had a way of connecting, of being believed, of showing by example that survival was possible. She sometimes called Cole, not often, maybe once every few months, just to check in, to say hi, to remind herself that good people existed. Their relationship wasn't romantic, wasn't even really friendship in the traditional sense. It was something else, something deeper, an understanding between 2 people who had survived darkness, who knew what it cost, who chose every day to keep going despite it. Thunder Road expanded, new chapters opened in neighboring states, all following the same model: community protection, missing children, self-defense classes, being visible, being helpful, being proof that stereotypes lied, that appearance didn't determine character, that sometimes the scariest looking people had the biggest hearts. Cole kept writing, kept searching, kept showing up when kids disappeared, when families needed help, when someone's daughter or son or mother was missing and the world seemed too big and too empty to ever find them. He didn't save them all, no one could. But he saved some, and some was better than none. He visited Sarah's grave once a year, on her birthday, brought flowers, sat in the grass, talked to her like she was still there, told her about the people he helped, the families he brought back together, the children who were safe because he refused to quit. I'm still trying, he said every time. Still missing you, still wishing I could have saved you. But I'm still trying, the guilt never fully left. How could it? She was his daughter, his responsibility. He had failed her in the most fundamental way a parent could fail. But the guilt was different now, quieter, more like an old injury that ached when it rained instead of a fresh wound that bled every day. One afternoon in spring, 5 years after the rescue, a motorcycle pulled into the Hart driveway. Sienna was in the kitchen when she heard the engine. She looked out the window, saw Cole, felt her heart skip, not because anything was wrong, because he was there. Because his presence still meant safety, still meant someone who showed up. She opened the door before he knocked. Hi, Cole nodded. Hi, hope this isn't a bad time. Never. Come in. Harper and Bryn were in the living room doing homework. Bryn looked up first. Her face lit up. Mr. Ghost. She jumped up, hugged him. She was 11 now, but still small enough that the hug felt like it did 5 years ago. Like something that mattered. Like gratitude that could never fully be expressed. Harper was 15, too cool to run over like her little sister. But she stood, smiled, genuine. Hey, Cole. Hey, Harper. Cole pulled a bag from his jacket. Brought you guys something. Inside was a book for Harper. Not a kid's book. Young adult. About a girl who survives a disaster and has to figure out how to live after. How to be normal when everything inside you has changed. Harper took it, read the back cover, looked at Cole. Thank you. Her voice was quiet, but he heard what she didn't say. That she needed this, that she struggled with the same thing, that she understood. For Bryn, he had a stuffed wolf, gray, soft, just the right size for holding. Bryn grabbed it immediately, hugged it, named it Ghost on the spot. Cole smiled, small, but real. Can you stay for dinner, Sienna asked. Cole hesitated, didn't want to impose, didn't want to make things weird. But Sienna's eyes said she meant it, that she wanted him there, that he was family whether either of them had said it out loud or not. Sure, if it's not too much trouble. It's not. They ate together, pasta that Sienna made from scratch, garlic bread, salad, normal food, normal conversation. Harper talked about school, about college applications coming up, about maybe studying social work, maybe doing what her mom did, helping people. Bryn talked about nothing and everything, about her friends, about a science project, about a book she read, about how her teacher said she was a good writer. Just the chatter of a kid who felt safe, who had healed enough to be normal, to be happy. After dinner, Cole helped clean up, stood at the sink, washing dishes while Sienna dried. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that comes when you don't need to fill space with words, when presence is enough. How are you really? Sienna asked quietly, so the girls wouldn't hear. Cole rinsed a plate, handed it to her. Some days better than others. You same. She dried the plate, put it in the cabinet. I still have nightmares sometimes. Still get scared when someone's too nice too fast. Still check over my shoulder in parking lots. Cole nodded. That's normal, after what you went through. What we went through, Sienna corrected. You carried it too. Different, but the same. Trauma isn't a competition. We both survived something terrible. We both get to struggle with it. Cole looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had every reason to give up, to hide, to let fear win. Instead, she had transformed her trauma into purpose, into helping others, into proving that survival was possible, that healing was real, that good could come from horror if you were brave enough to look for it. You're stronger than you know, he said quietly. So are you. Before Cole left, Sienna did something she had never done. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, hugged him, tight, real, the kind of hug that said things words couldn't. You gave me my life back. Her voice was muffled against his jacket. You gave my girls their mother. I will never be able to thank you enough for that. Cole's arms came up slowly. He hugged her back, careful, gentle, like she was something precious that could break. And maybe she was. Maybe they both were. Maybe everyone was just fragile things pretending to be strong until someone reminded them it was okay to be both. When he pulled away, Cole's eyes were wet. He didn't apologize for it, didn't wipe them, just let her see. Let himself be human. Let the armor down for just a moment. Take care of yourself, he said. You too. He walked to his bike. Harper and Bryn watched from the window. Waving, he waved back, started the engine. The deep rumble filled the quiet neighborhood. He pulled away as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Sienna stood in the doorway, watched him disappear around the corner, then went back inside, back to her daughters, back to the life that almost ended, back to the proof that sometimes when you thought everything was lost, when you were certain the darkness would win, someone showed up, someone fought, someone refused to let evil have the last word. Cole rode through the evening, no destination in mind, just riding, feeling the wind, the engine beneath him, the road stretching ahead. He thought about the last 5 years, about Sienna and Harper and Bryn, about the trial, about the other women he had helped since, about the MC chapter becoming something more than just a club, becoming a force for good. He thought about Sarah. Always Sarah. The weight was still there, would always be there, but it didn't crush him anymore, didn't stop him from breathing, had transformed from anchor to ballast, something that kept him grounded instead of something that drowned him. The road climbed into the mountains, the same mountains where he had ridden 5 years ago, where he had found Sienna in that cabin, where he had kept a promise to two little girls. The snow was gone now, replaced by wildflowers, by green grass, by the world coming back to life after winter. He pulled over at a scenic overlook, killed the engine. Stood there looking at the valley spread out below, at the town where people lived and loved and struggled and survived, at the place where he had found purpose after losing everything. His phone buzzed, text message, from Axel, missing girl in Laramie, 12 years old. Families asking for help. We're mobilizing tomorrow at dawn. You and Cole looked at the message, at the question he had been asked 1,000 times, at the choice he made every single time. He thought about Sarah, about how he couldn't save her, about how that failure had broken him, about how he had let it transform into something else, something that mattered. He typed back, I'm in, put the phone away, looked at the valley one more time, thought about the road ahead, about tomorrow, about the girl who needed finding, and about the family who was terrified, about showing up even when it was hard, especially when it was hard, because that's what mattered. The sun touched the horizon, the sky caught fire. Orange bleeding into red, bleeding into purple. Colors that shouldn't work together but did. Creating something beautiful from the ending of the day. From darkness approaching but not yet arrived. Cole mounted his bike, started the engine. The rumble was familiar, constant, real. He pulled back onto the road, headed toward tomorrow, toward the next search, toward the next family who needed someone to show up when everyone else had given up. He wasn't running anymore, hadn't been for a while, wasn't hiding from his past or his pain or his guilt. He was riding towards something instead, toward purpose, toward meaning, toward the belief that loss didn't have to be the end, that it could be the beginning of everything that mattered. The road stretched ahead, empty, open, full of possibility. Somewhere out there, a 12-year-old girl was missing. Somewhere a family was desperate. Somewhere people needed help. And Cole Brennan, Ghost, the man who lost his daughter and found purpose in the wreckage. He was riding toward them. Not because he was a hero. He had never been comfortable with that word. Heroes were people in movies. People who wore capes and had superpowers and always saved everyone. He was just a man, a broken man. A man who had failed at the most important thing a father could do, protect his child. But he was also a man who had decided that failure didn't have to be the end. That loss could transform. That pain could become power if you were willing to do the work, to show up, to keep trying, to refuse to let the darkness win. The wind hit his face, cold despite the spring evening. He welcomed it, felt it wake something inside him, something that had been sleeping for 8 years, something that had finally started to breathe again. Not hope exactly, something quieter, something more sustainable. acceptance, purpose, peace. The ghost rode on, no longer haunted, no longer running, just riding toward tomorrow, toward the next promise to keep, toward proof that showing up mattered, that doing the hard thing when it would be easier to look away was what separated living from just existing. Behind him, the sun disappeared below the horizon. Darkness spread across the valley. But ahead, the road was visible, lit by his headlight, one stretch at a time, 1 mile at a time, one choice at a time. That's all anyone could do. Keep going, keep trying, keep believing that the next person might be the one you save. And if you couldn't save them all, if some still slipped through your fingers, if some nights you still woke up crying about the ones you lost, that was okay. That was human. That was the price of caring in a world that made caring dangerous. But the alternative was worse. The alternative was walking away, closing your heart, deciding that because you couldn't save everyone, you wouldn't try to save anyone. That was death, not physical. Something worse, the death of everything that made life worth living. Cole chose life, chose trying, chose showing up every single day, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt. Because that's what Sarah would have wanted. That's what Sienna and Harper and Bryn deserved. That's what the 12-year-old girl in Laramie needed. Someone who refused to quit. Someone who kept searching. Someone who believed that every life mattered enough to fight for. The road climbed higher. The air got colder. The darkness got deeper. But Cole kept riding, engine beneath him, wind against him, heart lighter than it had been in years, heading towards someone who needed him, toward purpose, toward proof that sometimes broken things were the most useful, that sometimes the worst pain created the strongest people, that sometimes the only way through grief was to turn it into something that saved others. In his wallet pressed between two photographs, his daughter's face frozen at 7 years old, forever young, forever missed, and a crayon drawing from a 6-year-old girl who became 11, who healed, who remembered, who sent cards every year saying thank you. Evidence that loss could transform, that failure could become foundation, that the worst thing that ever happened could somehow lead to the best things you ever did. Cole rode toward tomorrow, toward the next search, toward the next family in crisis, toward proof that he mattered, that showing up mattered, that choosing to help instead of hurt was the only thing that separated humans from monsters. Somewhere behind him, Sienna was putting her daughters to bed, reading stories, checking locks, doing the normal things that mothers did, things she almost never got to do again, things she only got to do because a stranger chose to help, because someone saw 2 girls in the snow and couldn't walk away, because a broken man decided his brokenness could be useful. Somewhere behind him, Harper was reading the book he brought, finding herself in the pages, understanding that survival was possible, that trauma didn't have to destroy you, that you could carry weight and still move forward, that being damaged didn't mean being broken beyond repair. Somewhere behind him, Bryn was falling asleep with a stuffed wolf clutched to her chest, dreaming normal dreams, kid dreams, safe dreams, because 5 years ago someone kept a promise, because someone rode through a blizzard, because someone fought for her mother when everyone else looked away. And somewhere ahead, on a road that stretched into darkness, a 12-year-old girl waited to be found, needed someone to show up, needed someone who wouldn't quit, needed proof that good people still existed, that help was coming, that she mattered enough to search for. Cole rode toward her, toward dawn, toward the moment when he would meet a desperate family and promise to do everything he could, toward the next search, the next rescue, the next chance to prove that loss could transform, that pain could become purpose, that sometimes the heroes didn't wear capes. Sometimes they wore leather and patches and carried grief so heavy it should have crushed them, but instead made them strong enough to carry others. Sometimes they were the people you were taught to fear, the ones you crossed the street to avoid, the ones who looked dangerous but turned out to be the bravest people you ever met. Sometimes heroes were just broken people who refused to let their brokenness win, who got up every morning and chose to keep trying, who rode through blizzards and searched through darkness and showed up when everyone else walked away, who proved by example that doing the right thing mattered, that kindness was stronger than cruelty, that love outlasted loss, The engine rumbled, the wind howled, the road went on forever. And Cole Brennan, Ghost, the man who lost everything and found purpose in the wreckage. He rode toward whatever came next, ready, willing, unbroken despite everything that tried to break him. Because someone had to. Because children needed protecting. Because families deserve fighting for. Because the world was dark enough without good people deciding to stop being good. Because 8 years ago he failed his daughter, and every day since he had been trying to make that failure mean something. Not redemption. He would never be redeemed, would never forgive himself, would carry Sarah's loss until the day he died. But meaning, purpose, proof that even the worst thing could transform into something that saved others. That grief could become grace. That loss could become legacy. The stars came out overhead, cold, distant, infinite, bearing witness to one man on one road heading toward one missing girl. A small thing in the grand scheme, a tiny drop in an ocean of suffering. But to that family, to that girl, to the people who would be saved tomorrow and the next day and the day after, it was everything. And that was enough. For tonight. For now. For this moment on this road heading toward this search, it was enough. The ghost rode on. Toward dawn. Toward purpose. Toward proof that sometimes when everything is taken from you, when you lose what matters most, when the darkness seems infinite and inescapable, you can choose to let it destroy you, or you can choose to transform it into something that saves others. Cole had made his choice, made it every day, made it every time he started his bike and rode towards someone who needed help, made it every time he kept a promise, every time he showed up when others walked away, every time he proved that loss didn't have to be the end, that it could be the beginning of everything that mattered. The road went on, the engine rumbled, the stars watched, and somewhere in the darkness ahead, tomorrow waited, full of people who needed saving, full of promises to keep, full of chances to prove that heroes didn't always wear capes. Sometimes they just showed up, and sometimes that was all anyone needed.